For a pretty long time, Zenobia was like my default for AoE arts archers. I thought she performed like the best overall, um, especially because it was like pretty much only Jarcher and her for like a very long time of like AoE archers that like had like actual that were like somewhat easy to get and also like really good at what they do. Um, I'm not happy with this buff. I understand it. I'll accept it. But to me, it feels like this should have always been part of the skill. This I don't know. Like I'm not nearly as disappointed as I am with Sigurd, like his type of buffs. Like Zenobia's most recent, or not even most recent, her first buff. Um there is some potential that you can do with it that like gives it a whole lot more staying power than just like even like a slight damage buff, but I don't know. I'm just a little disappointed with it. It could have been a lot better. All right, let's get started. Base stack is at a very high number 4 star. Usually they're sitting around 9k flat. This is like a lot closer to 10k than 9k. HP, it is definitely on the lower end, but her guts just got buffed, so are we really talking about HP right now? 0.47% MP gain. And I really like her deck. I've always liked the performance of her arts cards, especially these things when you crit tend to go like 0 to 100. Well, not really 0, but you crit on the arts card, you're MP again. And her quick cards, they weren't super good, but they at least gen some stars. Like they're not 2 hit. That's the important thing. They're not 2 hit, and extra attack. It's not going to be the best. Really isn't going to be the best. Like 0.47 is not great gains, and then she's an archer, this Stargent. So her base stats were always like pretty good. Um, yeah, again, she's art, so like you don't crit usually isn't the focus, and if she needs to crit, will crit, and then just like arts in general, it's arts. First skill, 30% arts up, 20% gauge per turn, and 10 stars per turn. This is on a 7-turn cooldown. And now we have her buffed skill. So this isn't live on fandom yet. I'm recording this like even an hour later than I thought. I wanted to like start getting my desk like built. Oh yeah, by the way, new chair, like fully built. Last night was the last stream with my old chair. And oh my god, this is a cloud. I'm sitting loud. Anyway, back to this. So they did not change anything. They didn't do cooldowns, and they didn't change any of these effects. It's still 20 stars per turn, and it's still star weight for 1 turn. The only difference that I can see is this bit here. When the guts procs, 20 battery for everyone in the party. If she was a different card type than arts, this would be a better buff. But unfortunately, she is arts, and this is not that good of a buff, if I'm being honest. Like I said at the start, functionally, like how I've always used her, this is only gonna matter pretty much if Zenobia's like soloing. Yeah, because just in Castoria comps, she's not dying, especially not in 3 turns. Like the big issue for this is the fact that this is like her guts is still 1-time 3 turn. If this is a 1-time 5-turn guts, this is a different story, and this buff would feel a lot better. But they didn't change the duration of the guts. And honestly, I'm of the opinion that they really didn't need to change the guts duration. I thought for her it was fine. She's not someone that actually needs 5-turn guts. Yeah, like I really like this servant, and it's really hard for me to be like super optimistic of it. Zenobia came out 3 years ago, and this is the first buff we're giving her. Yeah, like disappointing is all I can say. Uh, like flat out, this doesn't change her damage. This isn't gonna change her on the tier list placement. Um, but I mean, like it's not a buff that does nothing. This does do something, and it's not even just for her; it's for the whole party. Um, yeah, like I guess there can be some synergies, like with Chang Gong, like Zenobia MPs, then you Chang Gong, and then everyone gets a 20 battery. Like I guess that's there, but like I would do a team like that in the first place. Um, yeah, like I really like this character, and I'm just not happy with this buff. Um, like I'm not asking for an MP buff. Like I'm not asking for Zenobia to start hitting like Durga numbers. Um, because she will always have crits over both these two. That's kind of the reason like I don't care about like her damage, because it's fine. Like there's a difference of 40,000 for just the MP. And if you take crits, by turn 3, both of these two, Durga and Charger, no matter what, they are losing. If you run them in the same exact setup, Zenobia, Charger, or Durga, all three of them together, same exact setup, Zenobia will always do more crit damage. There is no exception to that rule. So having to trade like MP damage for like significantly higher crit damage is a fair trade in my opinion. Um, but yeah, this buff helps in her niche cases. Like especially when she's like fighting one enemy, which again, like she is like when you ramp up crit as much as she does, she essentially does become a single target with a splash damage MP, very similar to Takeru. She's pretty much only using her AoE MP to either wave clear or ramp up crit damage. So in that sense, I do get it. It's just I don't know, like reduce cooldown on this, like maybe give it another fact something, or do something with the skill. There's a lot they can kind of do with her. Um, yeah, like I don't mean to be negative about this, but this is like this is more lackluster than the Super Bunyan buff. Like even that was still an MP buff and a star bomb, which for Bunyan he definitely needed it. Um, this kind of just doesn't push the needle much at all. Um, yeah. Also, like, after going through the list, Helena Summer just looping as good as she does and hitting harder, but again, she has shit base card damage. All right, let's move on. 20% attack and party-wide crit chance resistance. Again, this is what it is. This is very tanky at around 30. Like it's very hard for the enemy to crit unless they have like a crit buff. Like minus 30%. Like yeah, this is just a lot for like the AI. For you, the player, this isn't that bad if you're using Quick or Buster, because there's usually an overabundance of stars. But definitely here, we're running into is like not. This isn't bad for her. I'm saying like the enemy would be like struggling to crit her, which again plays into this tankiness that the issue isn't that this guts is bad, it's getting to the gut, like even needing the guts for anything is where the issue is gonna lie. At the very least, in farming, you don't even need to be popping this skill. And because it's a gut skill, you're not exactly popping it at max HP unless you need stars to crit. So it's not like... Okay, so the important thing is they didn't tie like an offensive skill to this, because then you would have needed to pop the skill like on turn 1, whether you were doing a CQ or you were farming. So at the very least, they didn't mess up her kind of flow, and force her to be popping her guts when she doesn't need to. Like characters like Van Gogh, they have to be popping their guts like super early, and that's why their guts is on a 5-turn uptime, not a 3. All right, moving on. Magic resist D, 12.5%. Independent action B, 8% crit damage, and riding B, 8% quick buff. Also, this is an archer with riding. Just thought I'd mention it. So Britomart is going to royally fuck her over. If you have Britomart and there's a Zenobia boss, use Britomart and you're gonna do really well. Zenobia just has like really good append skills. Like they're like, the crit damage is probably the one you want to save last, just because she already ramps up crit damage. But like literally everything else is really nice, especially this one. Extra attack if you're fully using her as a crit servant, which is completely fair. Having like built-in ramp of 150% crit damage minimum is a lot, even more than a lot of single targets. So again, completely understand, especially if you bring Popus Johanna too, then her arts crits are going to be like really disgusting that final turn. But anti-berserker, this is never a bad thing. Like she's always going to be effective against berserkers, so just win easier. And mana loading, she doesn't have a battery, but it just means like you don't have to pop one of Castoria's 20% on Zenobia. You could put it on another Castoria and pop Castoria's MP like fairly early. And you do want to be popping Castoria's MP because it will help ramp up the crit damage. Speaking of MP, 4-hit AoE arts, small attack buff that activates first, damage to all enemies, super effective damage against king enemies, and the ramp up crit damage. And with overcharge scaling from 50% at base to 100%. So if you can lead with other MPs before Zenobia, or you have sources of overcharge, it's just gonna really speed up her process of like devastating crits. If there is like yeah, like shoot for like 200%, so 250s and 2 overcharge 3 and then an overcharge 1, like 313 would, or no. Let me correct that. Overcharge 3, and then overcharge 1, and then that final turn you follow up with base guards, and yeah, you're gonna be doing a lot of damage. So king enemies, there are a lot of sabers that are kings, a lot. 1, 2, 3, 17 out of, I believe, 40 something. So yeah, 1 second. How many sabers? 52. So a third of the sabers in the game she has super effective against. And then we come down to berserkers, and 9 berserkers have it too. Not bad. Not bad. It's a better niche than Britomart has. Like there aren't that many archers that have riding. Zenobia, a lot of OG Saber, King, Umu, both Umus, Caesar, Charlemagne. It is so easy to list these King Saber servants. Bond CEs, 30% MP damage. Okay, this makes way more sense now. This makes way more sense. Okay, so her Bond CE is 30% MP damage, and when her guts activates, she gets 30% gauge. That literally just lines up with her buff skill. So to me, this is like, yeah, let's go back to it. I'm glad I fully looked at this. Yeah. So if guts procs while you have the Bond CE, Zenobia has a 50 battery. On its own, this isn't like that impressive. It's the combo and the fact that they have been pushing us to get as many Bond CEs as possible that is like really pushing me to believe they're gonna just make these passives and or let us run this and another CE to go with it. Because that, if the base stats for this, or yeah, so it is either they let us run another CE with this, or they let us actually level these CEs to like 2000 or something. Because it's just too much of a loss in attack. But having a 50 battery from a guts proc, especially if she happens to be solo, she's definitely gonna need that extra battery. And yeah, there is no duration on this. It's not a one-time thing. It's literally anytime a guts activates, which is the same as the buff. So honestly, that makes me stand by my statement more that she should have had this buff from the get-go. Like, this is not a buff, this is a fix. You really just should have had this original. And then I wouldn't be complaining as much. The only reason I'm complaining is they're taking a buff away from a different character. Yeah. So this buff, it gets a little better, but until we like, this is a Bond, this is like an economy issue, not necessarily like a Zenobia issue. So if there is like another global buff to servants in the game where they do something with craft essences, specifically Bond craft essences, then my opinion on this is going to change. But right now, I think it's, and again, I don't think much of this buff. It's whatever, but a buff is still a buff. She is literally better than she was before. She didn't get worse. Yeah. Disappointing, but is what it is. All right. No stream this morning. I actually am probably about to start setting up my desk now. I have like 2 hours before work. I'm gonna get this uploaded and see you later. Peace. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. If you enjoyed, drop a like or sub. Hope to see you in the next one. Peace.